The massive command ship drifted through the void of space like a metal mountain. Inside its steel walls, Admiral Kethvar stood before a curved window that showed the stars beyond. His 4 arms crossed behind his back as he watched the distant lights. The Zephyrian Empire had ruled this part of the galaxy for 300 years. 47 worlds had fallen to their might. Soon it would be 48. "Admiral," came a voice from behind him. Kethvar turned to see Dr. Veltar walking across the bridge. The science officer held a datapad in his thin hands. His large eyes looked worried. "What is it, Doctor?" Kethvar asked. His voice was deep and commanding. It was the voice that had ordered the destruction of entire cities. "We received the data from Probe 779, Veltar said. He handed the datapad to the Admiral. "The probe has been studying the 3rd planet in the Sol system for 6 months. Kethvar looked at the screen. It showed a blue and green world spinning slowly in space. White clouds covered parts of its surface. It looked peaceful. Almost beautiful. "This is our target?" Kethvar asked. "It looks like any other world." "Yes, Admiral, but there is something strange in the data." Veltar touched the screen with one finger. New numbers appeared. The probe detected unusual energy readings before it went silent. Kethvar studied the numbers. They meant nothing to him. He was a warrior, not a scientist. "What kind of energy?" "I'm not sure," Veltar admitted. "The readings are unlike anything we have seen before. They appear to come from the planet's surface, but they do not match any known technology." The Admiral handed back the datapad. "Primitive species often surprise us with their simple machines. Remember the gas miners on Xerion Prime? They had built weapons from mining tools." "This is different, Admiral," Veltar said. His voice was quiet but firm. "These readings suggest something more advanced than we expected." Before Kethvar could respond, another officer approached. Commander Zixtal was young for his rank, but he had proven himself in many battles. His scaled skin was dark green and his eyes were sharp. "Admiral, we have received another transmission," Zixtal said. He held out a small device. "This one is unusual." Kethvar took the device and pressed a button. A voice filled the air around them. It spoke in perfect Zephyrian, though the accent was strange. "To the Zephyrian Empire. You are approaching the Sol system. This is a warning. Do not engage the humans. Do not land on their world. Do not underestimate them. You have been warned. Turn back now, while you still can." The message ended. Silence filled the bridge. Several officers had stopped their work to listen. They all looked at the Admiral. Kethvar laughed. The sound was harsh and cold. "Psychological warfare," he said. "The humans must have captured one of our scouts. They forced him to record this message." "But Admiral," Veltar said, "how would they know our language? How would they know we were coming?" "They are more clever than we thought," Kethvar replied. "But cleverness does not stop plasma cannons. It does not stop our ships." He walked to the center of the bridge. Around him, his officers worked at their stations. Lights blinked on screens. The quiet hum of the ship's engines filled the air. "Commander Zixtal," the Admiral said. "Send word to all ships. We attack in 12 hours. "Yes, Admiral," Zixtal replied, but he did not move right away. "Should we study the warning more? Perhaps send more probes?" Kethvar's eyes grew cold. "Commander, in 300 years the Zephyrian Empire has never retreated from a primitive world. We will not start now." Dr. Veltar stepped forward. "Admiral, I request permission to study the energy readings more. Something about this planet troubles me." "Your troubles do not concern me, Doctor," Kethvar said. "What concerns me is adding another world to our empire." He turned to face the large screen at the front of the bridge. It showed the blue planet again. So small, so far away, yet something about it made him feel uneasy. He pushed the feeling away. "This warning," he said to his officers, "proves that the humans know we are coming." "Good. Fear will make them surrender faster." The bridge became busy with activity. Officers sent messages to other ships. Weapons were charged. Fighters were prepared. The great machine of war began to move. But in the corner of the bridge, Dr. Veltar looked at his datapad again. The strange energy readings were still there. They pulsed like a heartbeat, like something alive, something waiting. Hours passed. The fleet moved closer to the Sol system, 150 ships of different sizes, battle cruisers with thick armor, fast attack ships with powerful weapons, troop carriers filled with soldiers. It was enough force to destroy most worlds twice over. In his private quarters, Admiral Kethavar studied reports from previous battles. The Empire had a perfect record. Every world they attacked had fallen. Some fought back, but never for long. Technology always won against primitive courage. A soft chime told him someone was at his door. "Enter," he called. Dr. Veltar walked in. He looked tired. His large eyes were red from staring at screens. "Admiral, I have been studying the probe data all night," Veltar said. "I found something else. Something that worries me greatly." Kethavar did not look up from his reports. "What now, Doctor?" "The energy readings are not random," Veltar said. "They form patterns. Complex patterns that suggest intelligence. Advanced intelligence. All species have intelligence, Doctor. It does not make them dangerous. But, Admiral, these patterns are changing. They are adapting, almost like they are learning." Kethavar finally looked up. "Learning what?" "Learning about us," Veltar said quietly. "I think the humans have been studying our probe. I think they know more about us than we know about them." The Admiral stood up. His forearms flexed with controlled anger. "Doctor, you are letting fear cloud your judgment. This is a simple conquest. We arrive, we destroy their defenses, we take their world. It has worked 47 times before." "But the warning, Admiral. Someone told us not to come. Someone who knew we were coming." "Enough!" Kethavar's voice filled the room. "I will not let the fears of one scientist change 300 years of tradition. We are the Zephyrian Empire. We do not run from primitives." Dr. Veltar bowed his head. "Yes, Admiral, I understand." But as he left the room, Veltar's mind was filled with worry. The energy readings were getting stronger. The patterns were becoming more complex. Something on that blue world was watching them. Something that had sent a warning. A warning they had chosen to ignore. On the bridge, Commander Zixtal checked the fleet's position. They would reach the edge of the Sol system in 6 hours. He thought about the strange message. The voice had sounded so certain, so confident. But confidence meant nothing in war. The Zephyrian Empire had ships, weapons, and 3 centuries of victories. What could one small world do against such power? Soon, they would find out. The fleet moved through space toward Earth. Behind them, the stars watched in silence. Ahead of them, a blue world waited. And somewhere in the darkness between, an ancient warning echoed unheard. They had been warned. But they were coming anyway. The Zephyrian fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. 150 ships appeared in the darkness like metal stars. Admiral Kethavar stood on his bridge and smiled. This was always his favorite moment. The moment when another world learned that the Empire had come for them. "Long-range sensors are active, Admiral," reported Lieutenant Yekska from her station, "scanning the inner system now." Kethavar expected to see a peaceful world, maybe some simple satellites, perhaps a few space stations with basic technology. That was what they usually found. Primitive species who had barely left their home planet. But the sensor readings that appeared on the main screen made him frown. "Lieutenant, check those readings again," he ordered. Yekska's hands moved quickly over her controls. "Sensors are working correctly, Admiral. I am detecting multiple artificial objects throughout the system, hundreds of them." "Show me," Kethavar said. The main screen changed. It now showed a map of the Sol system. Red dots marked the Zephyrian fleet at the edge, but between them and Earth, hundreds of blue dots floated in space. "What are those?" Kethavar asked. Dr. Veltar, who had been quiet since their argument, stepped forward. They appear to be monitoring stations, Admiral, and defense platforms. Many more than our intelligence predicted. Defense platforms? Commander Zixtal said. Our report said the humans had barely reached their own moon. Our reports were wrong, Veltar said quietly. Suddenly, alarms began to sound throughout the bridge. Lieutenant Yekska's eyes went wide as she stared at her screen. Admiral, we are being scanned by multiple sources, high-powered sensors from throughout the system. Kethvar felt a chill run through his body. Being detected so quickly was not normal. Most primitive species took hours or days to notice an approaching fleet. The humans had found them in minutes. How is this possible? He demanded. Unknown, Admiral, Yekska replied. But the scans are very detailed. They are mapping our entire fleet. On Earth, deep beneath a mountain in Colorado, alarms were ringing in a different language. General Sarah Chen stood in the center of the command room, watching screens that showed the alien fleet. How many ships? She asked. 150 confirmed, replied Colonel Martinez at the sensor station. Multiple ship classes. This is a full invasion force. Time until they reach Earth orbit? At their current speed, 18 hours. General? Chen nodded. 18 hours. They had prepared for this moment for months ever since they captured that alien probe. The probe that had been watching Earth. The probe that had told them everything they needed to know about their enemies. Send the message, she ordered. In space, the Zephyrian fleet was still moving toward Earth when they received another transmission. This time the voice was different. Female. Calm. Speaking perfect Zephyrian. To the commanding officer of the Zephyrian fleet. This is General Sarah Chen of Earth Defense Command. You were warned to stay away. You chose not to listen. This is your final chance to leave our system peacefully. Admiral Kethavar laughed, but the sound was forced. They learned our language quickly. I will give them that. Admiral, Dr. Veltar said, how do they know your rank? How do they know we have a commanding officer? Before Kethavar could answer, Commander Zixtal called out from his station. Admiral, 3 objects are approaching from Earth. High speed. Very high speed. Our advanced scouts? Kethavar asked. No, sir. These are coming from Earth toward us. The main screen showed 3 small objects racing through space. They were moving faster than anything the Zephyrians had ever seen from a primitive species. Weapons? Kethavar asked. Unknown, Admiral. They are too small to carry heavy weapons. Probably reconnaissance craft. Let them come, Kethavar decided. When they get close enough, destroy them. Send a message to the humans about what happens when they challenge the Empire. But the 3 human craft did something unexpected. Instead of flying straight toward the Zephyrian fleet, they split apart. One went high, one went low, and one came straight down the middle. Their flight patterns were wild and unpredictable. Target the center craft, Kethavar ordered. The weapons officer fired. A beam of bright energy shot through space toward the human ship. It should have been an easy hit. The human craft was flying directly toward them, but at the last second, the human ship twisted away. The energy beam missed by mere meters. The craft continued its wild flight, spinning and turning in ways that hurt to watch. Fire again, Kethavar ordered, his voice tight with anger. More energy beams shot out. The human ship dodged them all. It moved like a living thing, dancing between the weapons fire. Behind it, the other 2 craft were doing the same thing, avoiding shot after shot. How are they doing that? Commander Zixtal asked. Lieutenant Yekska was staring at her sensors. Admiral, I am reading massive acceleration forces on those craft. No living being should be able to survive those movements. Yet they are surviving, Dr. Veltar observed. And they are getting closer. The 3 human ships were now racing between the Zephyrian vessels. They moved too fast for the big guns to track. They flew patterns that seemed impossible, and somehow they were scanning every ship they passed. They are collecting data on us, Dr. Veltar said. Learning about our weapons, our defenses, our capabilities. Enough of this, Kethavar snarled. Send the fighters, 20 ships, destroy those insects. 20 Zephyrian fighter craft launched from the fleet. They were fast, armed with powerful weapons and flown by experienced pilots. They should have destroyed the 3 human craft in minutes. Instead, something happened that no one on the Zephyrian bridge could understand. The human ships began to fight back. They had weapons that they had not shown before. Weapons that fired solid metal at incredible speeds. When these metal slugs hit Zephyrian fighters, they punched right through the shields and armor. "Impossible," breathed Lieutenant Yekska. "Our shields stop all kinetic weapons." "Not all," Dr. Veltar said grimly. "Not when they move that fast." But it was not just the weapons that shocked the Zephyrians. It was how the humans fought. They worked together like parts of one mind. When one human ship was in trouble, the other 2 immediately came to help. They covered each other, protected each other, and fought with a coordination that was beautiful and terrible to watch. Worse, they seemed to know what the Zephyrian pilots were going to do before they did it. Human ships would dodge attacks that had not even been fired yet. They would turn away from weapons that were still charging. In 10 minutes, the humans had destroyed 6 Zephyrian fighters. The other 14 were running back to the fleet, damaged and defeated. "Status report," Kethvar demanded. 6 fighters destroyed, 8 heavily damaged, Commander Zixtal reported. His voice was quiet with shock. The human craft took no damage. "How many humans were in those ships?" "Sensors show 3 life forms, Admiral, 1 in each ship. 3 humans had defeated 20 Zephyrian fighters. 3. Admiral Kethvar stared at the main screen. The 3 human ships were now flying lazy, circles around his fleet just out of weapons range. They were watching, waiting, learning. "Admiral," Dr. Veltar said softly, "I recommend we reconsider our approach to this world." "Never," Kethvar replied, but his voice lacked its usual strength. "Send a message to Earth. Tell them to surrender or we will destroy their world." "Sir, they are sending us another message." The voice of General Chen filled the bridge again. "Admiral Kethvar, you have seen what 3 of our pilots can do. We have 10,000 more just like them. This is your last warning. Leave now or face the consequences." Kethvar looked around his bridge. His officers were staring at their screens with worried faces. For the first time in his career, he saw doubt in their eyes. "How do they know my name?" he whispered. Dr. Veltar had been studying his datapad. Now he looked up with fear written across his face. "Admiral, I have been analyzing the human attack patterns. They were not random. The humans knew exactly where our weak points were. They knew our shield frequencies. They knew our weapon ranges." "What are you saying?" "I am saying they have been studying us for a long time. Much longer than we have been studying them. That probe we sent? I think they captured it months ago. I think they have been learning everything about us while we learned nothing about them." Kethvar felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. For 3 centuries, the Empire had won because they always knew more than their enemies. They studied each world before attacking. They learned about defenses and weapons and tactics. But this time, it seemed the humans had studied them. "Admiral," Commander Zixtal said. "Orders?" Kethvar looked at the blue planet on his screen. So peaceful, so small. Yet somehow, it had already bloodied his fleet with just 3 ships. 3 ships. "We continue the attack," he said finally. "Ready all vessels for assault. We will show these humans the true power of the Empire." But even as he gave the order, Admiral Kethvar wondered if he was making the biggest mistake of his life. In the HFY, distance Earth waited. And on Earth, 10,000 human pilots were preparing for war. Admiral Kethvar had made his decision. The full might of the Zephyrian Empire would fall upon Earth like an iron fist. He would not be remembered as the first admiral to retreat from a primitive world. "All ships, attack formation," he commanded. "Target the 3rd planet. Destroy all resistance." The Zephyrian fleet moved toward Earth like a cloud of metal death. Battle cruisers led the way, their thick armor gleaming in the light of the distant sun. Behind them came the destroyers and frigates. At the rear, troop carriers waited to land soldiers on the conquered world. It should have been a simple battle. The Empire had done this 47 times before. But as they approached Earth's moon, things began to go wrong. Admiral, Lieutenant Yekska called out, "I am detecting massive energy buildups on the planet's surface." "Their defenses are charging," Kethvar said. "Expected. What are their capabilities?" "Unknown, sir. The energy readings are unusual." On the main screen, Earth grew larger. The blue and white marble that had looked so peaceful now seemed to pulse with hidden power. Strange lights flickered across its night side. "Sir!" Commander Zixtal's voice was sharp with alarm. "Multiple launches from the planet. Hundreds of objects heading our way." "Missiles?" Kethvar asked. "Negative, Admiral. These appear to be fighters, but they are launching from the planet's surface." Dr. Veltar looked up from his station. "Admiral, I am reading atmospheric breach signatures. They are launching spacecraft directly from their atmosphere into space, without using stations or orbital platforms. This was impossible. No species the Empire had encountered could launch fighters directly from a planetary surface into space combat. The energy requirements were enormous. The technology needed was beyond anything a primitive world should possess. But the evidence was right there on their sensors. Hundreds of human fighters were rising from Earth like a swarm of angry insects. "How many?" Kethvar demanded. "Still counting, Admiral," Yekska replied. 500, 800, 1,000. "Sir, they are still launching. I count over 1,500 fighters now." 1,500. The Empire's entire fleet carried only 800 fighters. "Admiral," Dr. Veltar said quietly, "I recommend we halt our advance and reassess." "No," Kethvar snarled. "We have superior technology. We have larger ships. We will crush them with overwhelming firepower." The human fighters reached the edge of Earth's atmosphere and formed into groups. But these were not like any formations the Zephyrians had ever seen. Instead of rigid battle lines, the humans flew in fluid, organic patterns that seemed to shift and flow like water. "Begin the attack," Kethvar ordered. The first Zephyrian battlecruiser, the Void Render, opened fire with its main plasma cannons. Beams of superheated energy shot toward the human formations. Each beam was powerful enough to destroy a city. The humans scattered like leaves in a windstorm. They moved in all directions at once, some diving toward Earth, others climbing high, above the battle. Not a single beam found its target. Then the humans began to return fire. Their weapons were not what the Zephyrians expected. Instead of energy beams, they fired solid projectiles at incredible speeds. Railgun slugs and kinetic penetrators that moved faster than anything the Empire had seen. The first slug hit the Void Render's forward shield generator. The shield flickered and died. The second slug punched a hole in the ship's armor. The third slug entered the ship's reactor core. The Void Render exploded in a ball of white fire. "Impossible!" Kethvar shouted. "That ship had the best shields in the fleet." "Their weapons are moving too fast for our shields to stop," Dr. Veltar reported. "Pure kinetic energy at relativistic speeds. Our shields were not designed for this type of attack." More Zephyrian ships opened fire. More human fighters scattered and regrouped, and more kinetic slugs found their targets. Within minutes, 3 more Zephyrian vessels were burning wrecks floating in space. But the worst part was not the weapons. The worst part was how the humans fought. They moved like they could read minds. When a Zephyrian ship turned to target one group of fighters, another group would attack from the opposite direction. When weapons locked onto a human ship, it would begin dodging before the weapons even fired. "How are they coordinating so well?" Commander Zixtal asked. Lieutenant Yekska was studying her communication sensors. "Sir, I am detecting massive data transmissions between all human craft. They are sharing information in real time. Positions, targets, damage reports, everything. They fight as one mind in many bodies," Dr. Veltar observed. Admiral Kethvar watched his fleet being torn apart by ships that should have been primitive toys. His hands gripped the command rail so tightly that his knuckles turned white. "Launch all fighters," he ordered. "All of them. Overwhelm their defenses." 800 Zephyrian fighters poured out of the fleet's carriers. They flew in perfect formations, following tactics that had worked for 3 centuries. Disciplined, organized, predictable. The humans fell upon them like wolves. Human fighters moved through the Zephyrian formations like ghosts. They appeared from nowhere, fired their deadly accurate weapons and vanished before return fire could target them. They used every piece of debris, every gas cloud, every shadow as cover. Worse, they had no fear. Zephyrian pilots began to panic as human fighters performed maneuvers that should have killed their pilots from acceleration forces. Humans flew straight toward Zephyrian weapons fire, dodging at the last possible second. They rammed damaged human ships into Zephyrian vessels, sacrificing themselves to save others. "Sir," Lieutenant Yekska called out, "the humans are doing something to our communications. Our fighter pilots are reporting system failures." "What kind of failures?" "Their targeting computers are malfunctioning. Navigation systems are showing false readings. Some fighters report their own weapons are not responding to commands." Dr. Veltar looked up from his station with horror on his face. "Admiral, the humans are not just fighting us. They are attacking our computer systems. They are using some form of electronic warfare we have never encountered." "How is that possible?" "I do not know, sir. But they are turning our own technology against us." On Earth, in the deep command bunker, General Chen watched the battle on dozens of screens. Around her, technicians worked at computers that glowed with alien symbols. "Status on the cyber attack?" she asked. "Proceeding as planned," replied Dr. Kim, the chief technology officer. "We are using the data from their probe to hack their systems. Their computer networks are surprisingly vulnerable once you know their access codes. And our pilots? Performing beyond expectations. The new neural link technology is allowing perfect coordination between all fighters. They are sharing sensory, data, tactical information, and targeting solutions in real time." General Chen nodded. The neural links had been humanity's secret weapon, technology developed from studying the captured Zephyrian probe. Now human pilots could think and act as one massive organism, while still maintaining individual creativity and initiative. In space, the battle was becoming a slaughter, not of humans, but of Zephyrians. Admiral Kethvar watched in horror as his fleet was systematically destroyed. Ships that had conquered worlds were being torn apart by fighters that looked like they were built from scrap metal. Pilots who had never lost a battle were running in terror from human attacks. "Admiral," Commander Zixtal said, his voice shaking, "we have lost 40% of our fighters. 18 capital ships are destroyed or disabled. The humans have lost less than 200 fighters. How many fighters do they have left?" "Still over 1,000, sir. And more are launching from the planet." Kethvar stared at the tactical display. Red symbols showed his dying fleet. Blue symbols showed the human forces, still strong, still growing. For the first time in his military career, he was losing. Badly. "Sir," Dr. Veltar said quietly, "I am detecting new contacts approaching from the dark side of their moon." "More fighters?" "Negative, Admiral. These are larger, much larger. I believe they are capital ships." The main screen showed new contacts emerging from behind Earth's moon. Ships that were clearly human-built, but massive beyond anything the Zephyrians had expected. They moved with purpose toward the battle. "How many ships do these humans have?" Kethvar whispered. "Unknown, Admiral, but I am beginning to suspect we greatly underestimated their capabilities." The human capital ships opened fire with weapons that made the fighters' railguns look like toys. Beams of concentrated energy that could cut a Zephyrian battlecruiser in half. Missile swarms that overwhelmed point defense systems. And something new. Weapons that seemed to bend space itself, crushing Zephyrian ships like invisible hands. "Admiral," Commander Zixtal said, "recommend immediate withdrawal." Kethvar wanted to give that order. Every instinct told him to run, but 3 centuries of Zephyrian pride held him back. "No," he said through gritted teeth. "Deploy the invasion force. Land troops on their planet. We will take their world even if we lose every ship." "Sir, with respect, that would be suicide." "Then, it will be glorious suicide," Kethvar replied. "We are the Zephyrian Empire. We do not run." But even as he gave the order, Admiral Kethvar knew he had made a terrible mistake. The warning had been real. The humans were not primitive. And now, his fleet was being destroyed by an enemy he had completely misunderstood. The troop carriers began their descent toward Earth's atmosphere. Behind them, the space battle raged on, and on Earth, 10 milli, the Zephyrian troop carriers descended through Earth's atmosphere like falling meteors. Admiral Kethvar watched from his command ship as 30 massive vessels carried 50,000 soldiers toward the planet's surface. Even if his fleet was losing the space battle, ground troops would secure victory. No primitive species could stand against Zephyrian soldiers. He was wrong about that too. The first sign of trouble came when the carriers reached the lower atmosphere. Instead of the clear skies they expected, they found themselves flying through a storm of metal and fire. "Sir," the pilot of Landing Ship 7 called over the radio, "we are under attack by atmospheric craft. They came out of nowhere." On Earth, human fighter jets screamed through the sky like hunting eagles. But these were not the same jets that had fought in wars decades before. These planes had been upgraded with technology learned from the captured Zephyrian probe. They moved faster, turned sharper, and hit harder than anything that should have been possible. Captain Sarah Reaper Johnson pulled her F-35 Lightning into a vertical climb, chasing a Zephyrian carrier through the clouds. Her plane's engines roared with power that came from hybrid human-alien technology. "Target locked," she called into her radio. Fox 3. The missile that left her plane was not a normal human weapon. It was a kinetic penetrator that used alien gravimetric technology to punch through shields that could stop nuclear weapons. The missile hit the carrier's rear engine and tore through its hull like paper. The massive ship began to fall from the sky, trailing smoke and fire. "Splash 1 carrier," Johnson reported. "Moving to next target." But the carriers that made it through the aerial defense faced something worse on the ground. As they landed, in fields and cities around the world, they found that the humans had been expecting them. The first Zephyrian soldiers to leave their ships walked into carefully prepared traps. Staff Sergeant Michael Rodriguez crouched behind a concrete barrier in downtown Denver, watching alien soldiers march down the street. They were tall, armored, and carried weapons that could melt steel. They moved in perfect formation, following standard Zephyrian military doctrine. Rodriguez smiled grimly. Standard doctrine was exactly what the humans had been counting on. "Fire," he whispered into his radio. The street exploded with gunfire from a dozen hidden positions. But this was not normal gunfire. The human weapons had been modified with alien technology. Bullets moved at incredible speeds and hit with devastating force. They punched through Zephyrian armor like it was made of cloth. The alien formation scattered, but there was nowhere to run. Humans had been watching them from satellites since they left their ships. Every movement was predicted. Every escape route was blocked. "RPG incoming," someone shouted. A rocket-propelled grenade struck the leading Zephyrian soldier. But this was not a normal RPG either. It was a human weapon enhanced with alien plasma technology. The explosion vaporized the soldier and left a crater in the street. In London, Tokyo, New York, and 100 other cities, the same scene played out. Zephyrian soldiers, who had conquered dozens of worlds, found themselves trapped in urban warfare against an enemy that seemed to know their every move. But the humans did more than just fight. They adapted. Dr. Lisa Chen worked in a laboratory beneath the Pentagon, surrounded by pieces of captured Zephyrian equipment. She had been reverse engineering alien technology for months, ever since they captured the probe. Now, with battle raging overhead, she was working faster than ever. "I've got it," she called to her team. "Their personal shields operate on a rotating frequency. If we can match the rotation and invert it." She typed commands into her computer. Data flowed to manufacturing plants around the world. Within hours, human soldiers were carrying weapons specifically designed to defeat Zephyrian personal shields. The aliens had better technology, but humans learned faster. Admiral Kethvar received reports from the ground battle with growing horror. His soldiers were not just losing, they were being slaughtered. Worse, the humans seemed to be studying Zephyrian tactics and equipment in real time. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. Dr. Veltar had been monitoring human communications. "Admiral, They are sharing information across their entire planet instantly. When one human soldier learns something about our weapons, every human soldier knows it within minutes. That is impossible. No species has that level of coordination. The humans do, sir. They have created a global communication network that allows instant data sharing. They fight as one organism with 8 billion minds. On the main screen, reports continued to pour in from the ground battle. Zephyrian positions were being overrun. Human forces were capturing alien weapons and vehicles. Worst of all, humans were beginning to use captured Zephyrian technology against them. Sir, Commander Zixtal reported, Landing Group 5 reports that humans are now using our own plasma rifles against us. They have somehow modified them to be more effective than our standard weapons. How is that possible? Unknown, Admiral. But the humans appear to be improving our technology even as they use it. This was beyond anything the Empire had ever encountered. Primitive species were supposed to be overwhelmed by superior technology. They were not supposed to steal that technology and make it better within hours of first seeing it. But humans were not like other species the Empire had conquered. In a factory in Detroit, workers were dismantling a captured Zephyrian tank. They had never seen alien technology before today, but they approached it with the same curiosity and determination that had built human civilization. "Look at this," said Maria Santos, an engineer who had been building cars until this morning. "Their armor plating is made from some kind of crystalline matrix. But see these stress points? If we redesign the molecular structure." She sketched modifications on a tablet computer. The new design was sent instantly to every human military unit on the planet. Within hours, human soldiers knew exactly where to shoot Zephyrian vehicles to disable them with a single shot. The aliens had superior materials, but humans had superior insight. As the day wore on, the tide of battle shifted dramatically. Zephyrian forces that had landed with confidence found themselves trapped and surrounded. Human tactics were unpredictable, illogical, and devastatingly effective. In the desert outside Cairo, a Zephyrian commander named Gaxtool found his entire regiment pinned down by human forces that seemed to appear and disappear like ghosts. Every time his soldiers advanced, the humans melted away only to attack from a different direction. "This is not how warfare is supposed to work," he muttered into his communicator. "Sir," his lieutenant replied, "the humans do not seem to follow standard military doctrine." "Then what doctrine do they follow?" "None that we recognize, sir. They appear to be making up new tactics as they fight." This was exactly right. Human military commanders around the world were inventing new strategies in real time, sharing ideas, instantly through their global communication networks. They combined ancient guerrilla warfare with cutting-edge technology. They used civilian infrastructure as military assets. They turned every human into a potential soldier. Most importantly, they fought with an intensity that the Zephyrians had never encountered. Colonel James Mitchell led a counterattack through the ruins of Seattle, carrying a weapon that had been a Zephyrian plasma rifle until human engineers got their hands on it. Now it fired twice as fast and hit 3 times as hard as the original. "Remember," he called to his soldiers as they advanced, "this is our world, our home. They want to take it from us." The human soldiers around him moved with a fury that came from defending everything they loved. They were not fighting for an empire or for conquest. They were fighting for survival, for their families, for their future. That made all the difference. By nightfall, Zephyrian forces on Earth were in full retreat. Those who could reach their ships fled back to space. Those who could not surrender or died fighting. The ground invasion that was supposed to secure the planet had become a complete disaster. Admiral Kethavar stared at the reports in disbelief. 50,000 soldiers, the finest warriors in the Empire, defeated by a primitive species in a single day. "Status of the fleet?" he asked quietly. 60% losses, Admiral," Commander Zixtal replied. "Most remaining ships are heavily damaged. The humans now control orbital space around their planet." "And the humans?" "They are launching more ships, sir. Their industrial capacity appears to be enormous. They are building new vessels even as the battle continues. Dr. Veltar looked up from his station. Admiral, I am detecting human ships approaching our position. They appear to be using captured Zephyrian technology, but modified. Modified how? They are faster than our ships, sir, and their weapons are more powerful. Admiral Kethvar closed his eyes. In one day, the humans had gone from primitive targets to technological equals. No, more than equals. They were innovating faster than the Empire could adapt. Sir, Commander Zixtal said quietly, recommend immediate retreat. For a long moment, Admiral Kethvar said nothing. 3 centuries of Zephyrian dominance. 47 conquered worlds. All of it meant nothing now. Signal the fleet, he said finally. Full retreat, emergency jump to hyperspace. Sir, many ships. Admiral Kethvar's remaining ships limped through space, running from Earth as fast as their damaged engines could carry them. 43 vessels out of 150. The greatest military disaster in Zephyrian history. But their nightmare was not over. Admiral, Lieutenant Yekska called from her station. I am detecting pursuit. Human ships are following us. Kethvar looked at the rear sensors in disbelief. How many? 12 confirmed, sir. But they are not like the ships we fought before. These appear to be newly constructed. Dr. Veltar studied the sensor readings. Admiral, these ships are using our own technology, but improved. They are faster than anything in our fleet. How is that possible? We have been retreating for only 6 hours. The humans appear to have incredible manufacturing capabilities. Veltar replied. They are building new ships using captured Zephyrian technology and their own innovations. Commander Zixtal looked up from his station. Sir, the human ships are gaining on us. At current speed, they will intercept us in 2 hours. Kethvar stared at the tactical display. Red dots showed his fleeing ships. Blue dots showed human vessels closing the distance like predators stalking wounded prey. In all his years of service, he had never been hunted like this. Can we jump to hyperspace? Negative, sir. Too many ships have damaged jump drives. If we leave now, we abandon 30 vessels and their crews. The Admiral faced an impossible choice. Run and abandon a third of his remaining fleet, or stay and fight with ships that were already beaten. Before he could decide, his communications officer spoke up. Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the human ships. Put it through. The voice that filled the bridge was calm and professional. It spoke perfect Zephyrian with no accent. Admiral Kethvar, this is Commodore Lisa Park of the Earth Defense Force. Your fleet is damaged and far from home. Surrender now and your crews will be treated according to galactic conventions of war. Kethvar laughed bitterly. Galactic conventions? These humans speak as if they have been part of galactic civilization for centuries. How do they know about galactic law? Commander Zixtal asked. Dr. Veltar was studying his datapad again. Admiral, I believe they learned it from our probe. The probe contained our legal databases, including information about prisoners of war. They have been preparing for this day for a long time, Kethvar realized. The human voice continued. You have 1 hour to consider our offer. After that, we will assume hostile intent and respond accordingly. The transmission ended, leaving the Zephyrian bridge in silence. Options? Kethvar asked his staff. Limited, sir, Commander Zixtal replied. We could scatter the fleet. Some ships might escape. Unacceptable. I will not abandon more of my people. We could make a stand here, suggested the weapons officer. Go down fighting. Against ships using our own technology but improved? That would be suicide. Dr. Veltar cleared his throat. Admiral, there is another option. We could try to communicate with whoever sent us the original warning. Kethvar turned to stare at his science officer. What do you mean? The warning we received before we attacked Earth. It came from someone who knew we were coming. Someone who tried to stop this disaster. Perhaps they can help us now. You want to call for help from an unknown entity? Admiral, we are already defeated. Our only choices are death, capture, or asking for help from whoever tried to save us in the first place. Kethavar considered this. Pride told him to fight and die like a Zephyrian warrior. But logic told him that his people needed him alive more than they needed him dead. "Do it," he said finally. "Send a message on all frequencies. Ask whoever warned us to reveal themselves." The message went out into the darkness of space. For long minutes, nothing happened. Then, slowly, something began to respond. It was not a ship or a station. It was something much older. A structure materialized out of the void between stars. It was massive beyond comprehension, built from materials that seemed to bend light around them. As it became visible, both human and Zephyrian sensors went wild with energy readings. "What is that?" Commander Zixtal whispered. "Unknown, sir, but it is broadcasting on ancient frequencies. Very ancient." A new voice filled both the Zephyrian and human ships. It was old, tired, and spoke in a language that was somehow familiar to everyone who heard it. "Zephyrian vessel. Human vessels, please hold your positions. I am the Sentinel, guardian of this region of space. We need to talk." "Admiral," Kethavar found his voice first. "You sent the warning?" "I did. Though you chose not to heed it. Who are you? What are you?" "I am what remains of the predecessor civilization that once ruled this galaxy. My people died out long ago, but we left guardians like myself to watch over younger species." "Commodore," Park's voice came over the channel. "You have been watching humanity?" "We have been watching humanity for 50,000 years, the Sentinel replied, "waiting for you to be ready." "Ready for what?" Kethavar demanded. "Ready to take your place in galactic civilization, ready to protect other species instead of conquering them." The massive structure moved closer to both fleets. As it did, more details became visible. It was not built like any ship they had ever seen. It was organic, flowing, alive in ways that metal and circuits could never be. "The humans were quarantined," the Sentinel continued, "not to protect the galaxy from them, but to protect them from species like yours, Admiral. We knew that humanity would eventually develop the technology to defend themselves. We knew they would become protectors rather than conquerors. We just had to wait for the right moment." "You used us," Kethavar said with growing anger. "You let us attack so the humans could defeat us. You attacked despite our warning. You made your choice. But yes, we knew this day would come. We knew humanity would need to prove themselves against a real threat." On the human ships, Commodore Park was trying to understand what she was hearing. "You have been guiding human development?" "Indirectly. We left certain technologies where your scientists would find them. We influenced certain discoveries, but the innovation, the courage, the determination to protect your world, that was all human." Dr. Veltar was studying the readings from the Sentinel ship. "Admiral, this entity is using technology beyond anything we can comprehend. If the humans are connected to them, then the Empire is finished," Kethavar said quietly. The Sentinel seemed to hear his thoughts. "The Zephyrian Empire as it exists now is indeed finished. You cannot continue to conquer and destroy worlds. But that does not mean the Zephyrian people are finished." "What do you mean?" "The humans have a saying. Those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. You have a choice, Admiral. Learn from this defeat or face destruction." "What kind of choice?" Commodore Park's voice joined the conversation. "We are prepared to offer terms, Admiral. Your people can live. Your civilization can continue. But the age of conquest is over." "Terms?" Kethavar asked. "Reparations for the worlds you have damaged," Park replied. "Technology sharing to help rebuild what you destroyed. And most importantly, a commitment to peaceful coexistence." The Sentinel's ancient voice added weight to the human words. "The galaxy is changing, Admiral. The old ways of conquest and empire are ending. Species must learn to work together or they will destroy each other." Kethavar looked around his bridge. His officers were watching him with expressions of hope and fear. The fate of the entire Zephyrian civilization rested on his next words. "And if we refuse?" Then you will face not just humanity but all the species you have oppressed, the Sentinel replied. 47 worlds remember Zephyrian conquest. Many of them would welcome the chance for revenge. But if we accept, then you become part of something greater than any empire, Commodore Park said. A galactic community based on cooperation instead of domination. Admiral Kethvar closed his eyes and thought of his people. Billions of Zephyrians living on dozens of worlds. They deserved a future, even if it was different from the past. I accept your terms, he said finally. The relief on his bridge was visible. Commander Zixtal actually smiled for the first time in days. Wise choice, Admiral, the Sentinel said. The humans will escort your fleet to a neutral world where negotiations can begin. And, Admiral? Yes? Next time you receive a warning, I suggest you listen to it. As the combined fleet moved toward the designated neutral world, Dr. Veltar approached his admiral. Sir, may I ask what changed your mind? Kethvar looked out at the stars. The humans, Doctor. In one day they went from primitive targets to our technological equals. They did not do this through conquest or theft. They did it through innovation, cooperation, and sheer determination. He paused, watching human ships escorting damaged Zephyrian vessels. Any species capable of that deserves respect, not conquest. Perhaps it is time the Zephyrian Empire learned to earn respect instead of demanding it. In the distance, Earth continued to spin in its orbit around an ordinary star. But the world was no longer ordinary. It had become the birthplace of the galaxy's newest protectors. And throughout the galaxy, other species looked toward the Sol system with hope. The age of conquest was ending. The age of cooperation had begun. The Empire had been warned. They had not listened. And in their defeat, they had found something better than victory. They had found a future.